Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says the first day of school this fall will be unlike any we've seen. The governor outlined what's called the Safe Learning Plan, which leaves the decision to reopen schools up to individual districts. But that decision is also based on the most recent county-by-county COVID-19 infection rates. In Hennepin County, for example, there are currently about 20 COVID-19 cases per 10,000 residents. Under the state's guidance, that would be all K-12 public schools in Hennepin County under the hybrid model of both in-person and distance learning. Of course, the case counts can shift, and the recommended model could change throughout the school year. It all means there's a lot to still figure out for local school districts. Sonia Goins spoke with educators in the Osseo district for their reaction.
The classroom will look different this fall as state officials and school staff work on a plan to keep COVID-19 out of the classroom.
This is not easy. COVID is not easy.
The Minnesota Department of Health is working with school districts to determine whether students go back in person, virtually, or in a hybrid model.
It's going to be tricky, and people are anxious, worried about their health, their own health.
It's a complicated puzzle with many different pieces. The governor's Safe Learning Plan relies on case numbers based on the county schools are in. Schools in Hennepin County would currently be recommended for the hybrid model based on the current 14-day case rate of 20 cases per 10,000 people. Those numbers are subject to change.
This is a localized, data-driven approach to making sure that school districts, where it is physically possible to teach our students, we will do that.
There's so many unanswered questions.
Christy Ekdahl is a fourth grade teacher at Oakview Elementary in Maple Grove and will have to wait a little while longer for answers. She taught at the school for 13 years and wants to go back into the classroom.
Just making sure that we are safe, making sure that we are practicing safe protocols, that we have safety measures in line.
Ekdahl says distance learning is the safest for staff and students, but she says it will be challenging.
It's a lot of work. A typical teacher is not prepared for distance learning in the sense that most of our curriculum is for in-person teaching.
And some students might have a hard time logging on for distance learning.
Not all of our students have access to technology or Wi-Fi, so there's an accessibility issue it's an equity issue.
But the final decision will lie with parents. Families have the option to choose distance learning for their students, even if the district is going with another model.
Parents, kids, and staff members are all just kind of waiting to find out what's going to happen.
Local districts continue to meet to decide how they will approach the new school year. The superintendent of Osseo area schools, Corey McIntyre, acknowledges the new decision-making framework is challenging. He says Thursday's announcement means a delay in informing parents about how the district will start the school year. McIntyre says, quote, "I know this delay affects working families who rely on childcare and many others. As a parent myself, I understand that this could create hardships for the families we serve." For parents, of course, there are still many unanswered questions. I spoke with parents at Becker Park and Crystal to get their thoughts.
I think that's really smart, and I think also getting that superintendent involved for each school district is very important, and just making sure that it's not a rush on it. Everything needs to be accounted for in every type of scenario. I think that's really important and imperative to the students.
Brittany Finley came out to Becker Park on Thursday with her family to enjoy the splash pad. She's a parent who also works in the Minneapolis school district, and she's hoping they can go with a hybrid model.
So maybe like a group go Monday and Tuesday of kids, have the school cleaned Wednesday, and then the other group go Thursday and Friday, and then keep rotating it like that.
Keith Kiefer of Brooklyn Park is a parent of 4. He says distance learning this past year was a burden on his family.
Trying to work and trying to do the distance learning at the same time was not easy.
His hope was that all schools would reopen this fall, leaving only the most at risk at home. So he had a different take on the governor's announcement.
Well, it's not yet a plan, so I wouldn't call it that. I'd just say what they're stating what the options are. So for us, we're going to send our kids to private school. Or at least the oldest one.
In the coming weeks, school districts will have to make some important decisions on what the future holds for these kids and their parents. The only certainty is that the pandemic will control what happens.
I'm not against going back to school, but I don't want to rush it and then it all goes downhill.
Now, for in-person learning, students and staff will be required to wear cloth masks, which schools will provide. Plastic face shields will also be available for teachers. It's also important to note that if there are outbreaks in a school or the surrounding community, districts have the ability to move away from in-classroom learning. For more on schools and other stories, you can go to our website, ccxmedia.org.
Find more local news stories at ccxmedia.org and follow us on social media.
Summer is usually a time for high school football players to work on getting stronger and faster and improving their skills. An overlooked part of this time of year is fundraising efforts. Jason Malillo caught up with one of the many local teams that are finding raising money to be tougher during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Park Center football team is working hard this summer, and the Pirates are optimistic about the 2020 season.
We have more kids registered for strength and conditioning this summer than last summer and the summer prior. So the hunger from the younger kids and the hunger from the soon-to-be seniors is there.
But the reality is football is an expensive sport, and the coronavirus pandemic is complicating Park Center's ability to raise funds, which is usually done through face-to-face sales of coupon cards. It costs between $8,000 and $10,000 per season for the Pirate football program to operate.
Our biggest problem is you can't knock on the door and go door to door anymore. So now we have other outlets.
In lieu of going door to door, Park Center players are asking family members to contribute to their cause, and the coupon books will also be sold online.
You know, even if we weren't in a pandemic right now, the main goal is, like I said earlier, a comfort zone and kids coming from a different socioeconomic level coming together as one and figuring it out, forming a bond, being a team, forming a family. So this is just an added obstacle in the way. It's not a challenge, it's just an obstacle that our kids need to learn, or you teach as a football coach, learn to break down the wall. Just another wall we gotta break down. And we got our kids who have everything, we have our kids who don't have much. If they learn how to break down the wall in their own way, we're gonna thrive. And that's the plan.
You can get more information at pcactivities.com, and a GoFundMe page is set up as well. Jason Malillo, CCX Sports.
Many summer camps and leagues in the northwest suburbs didn't happen this year because of the pandemic. But tennis is a sport that lends itself better to social distancing than many, as we found out at the Wayzata tennis camp. They're getting back into the swing of things at the Wayzata tennis camp. The co-ed camp for 3rd through 12th graders is in the middle of a 7-week run.
We've all been so excited to get out here for camp. I know especially me, getting a little stir crazy inside, and especially with us girls with our season coming up, I think we're all really glad to be able to be out here. And I mean, everyone's having a good time, and we're all a little rusty, but I think that it's really good that we're still getting out here and working hard.
It's a good way to stay fit, because obviously during quarantine, you're probably not getting out as much, and it's always fun to play tennis and do drills with your friends. So yeah, it's a good time.
Obviously, the kids are still getting comfortable with being back to a normal routine with each other. Some have played a lot more tennis than others over the COVID crisis, but it's just good to be back here and seeing the kids and keeping the relationships going. So,
it's a popular sport in the Plymouth Wayzata area, and numbers are very good this summer despite the pandemic.
I'm sold out. So it's really, every week will be full by the end of the week. So the numbers have been great, and I think the parents and the kids both want this and need this. So it's been good.
Some modifications for social distancing are required, but tennis lends itself pretty well to that. It's an important summer for multiple reasons for these young players.
Coming in from the tennis season into the summer, you get a lot better, but it was a little rusty without the tennis season, but I think we've kind of hit our groove here. So everyone seemed to be improving. So.
Tennis is an individual sport, but it's still so important for us to be around people. And everyone that I've talked to is, it gets a little lonely when you're by yourself for those couple months. So being around everyone definitely helps a lot mentally, and everyone's, a lot happier than they were a couple months ago.
The high school boys missed out on the spring season because of COVID-19, while the girls have their fingers crossed that there will be a fall season. Either way, they're having fun at the Wayzata tennis camp. For more sports stories, please be sure to visit our website, ccxmedia.org. And thanks for watching. I'm Jay Wilcox.
Find more prep sports games and highlights at ccxmedia.org and follow us on social media.